I'm Gary Smerdon. I'm the founder and CEO of Mext. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk about really one of the biggest disruptive things that's happening in our careers. Obviously, AI is a part of it, but it's specifically what is happening from a supply standpoint to dynamic random access memory, or DRAM. DRAM is just being devoured by AI workloads, and I think this cartoon kind of captures it quite well. AI is dominating and everybody else is getting what's left. Certainly, this is a supply crisis. It has many terms that are being associated with it, including Ramageddon, a pricing apocalypse. And you'll note here on the right that there has been a surge in DRAM pricing on the order of 30 to 50% per quarter. Morgan Stanley downgrading Dell by 2 notches because of just a realization that this memory supercycle is significant and it brings significant downside risk to hardware. Similarly, they downgraded HP and HPE by a single notch for the exact reason, this memory supercycle. You know, when Google and Microsoft are having to worship at the altar of Samsung and SK Hynix, where does that leave the rest of us? Okay, so how did we get here? DRAM had become the number one cost, accounting for 50% of the cost of a server. In the past few years, though, it's gone crazy. In the past few months, it has gone crazy. We now see that DRAM has been increasing in cost and thus basically taking a larger and larger portion of this processor pie. There are also studies from Google and Azure and Meta that highlighted things like DRAM utilization for production workloads at 40%. And then Azure highlighted that 50% of the VMs that they looked at never accessed half of their memory. So really big issues around waste, but it gets worse. The bigger issue is what Meta highlighted here. When you looked at the pages of memory, between 50 and 80% were not being touched for long periods of time. And that's why we founded the company, to solve this problem. So we came down with 3 principles that we believed in if we were going to revolutionize memory cost and capacity. Number 1, we need to increase DRAM utilization. We don't want to have wasted memory. We don't want to over provision. We don't want to strand. Pretty obvious. The next one is also pretty obvious, but if you look at all of the other approaches and attempts that have taken place, most of them, if not all of them, fall short in this kind of key principle, and that is to have no hardware or software changes. If you bring in a new hardware architecture or you require changes to the operating system or the application, then you are raising costs, because those things certainly cost money to deal with them, and you are increasing risk and slowing adoption. And the third one was, we got to bring flash into the memory tier. Got to find a way to bring and marry storage technology and have it appear as memory, because it's 50 times cheaper per bit than DRAM, and it's 30 times lower power per bit than DRAM. There's just one little problem. Flash is at least 500 times slower than DRAM. Then a light went off. Why don't we use AI? We realized we could use AI and create what we now call predictive memory. It's a very simple concept here. A CPU wants to work out of caches, so it should be working out of its caches. When it's not in cache, it wants to go and work out of DRAM. If data all of a sudden isn't being used or touched for long periods of time, like you saw in the Meta example, there's an opportunity to move or push it off to flash. The challenge is, of course, not pushing things off. It's what about when that page needs to be accessed all of a sudden? That's where we realized we could use AI to monitor the system and predict and move pages, push pages back into DRAM before they're being needed by the operating system or the application.
If you put all that stuff together correctly, you can make sure that the vast majority of times that the processor wants something, the predictive memory has already predicted it well in advance, brought it into the memory, and the processor never knows it was not there all the time.
What we are doing is we're taking constrained DRAM, adding flash, using our predictive memory software to create this expanded, abundant memory. So let me do a quick demonstration about setting up a Mext system. We're going to do this in AWS. And what you're going to see here is basically this is the AWS panel here. We're going to look at two instances. One is a half a terabyte, the other is a terabyte. You can see the cost of the half a terabyte is less than half. So we'll obviously pick that one. And we're going to connect. We'll just do standard free-H. You can see there's right at a half a terabyte. Now let's start next. And now let's see how much memory we have. And you can see it is doubled to a terabyte. That terabyte instance in AWS is $8,100 a month. With Mext, we were using our default, which is 50% DRAM, 50% Mext memory, where we're turning that flash into memory. And our software included in this cost with the AWS instance down to $4,400 a month, 46% savings. You want to push it further, 25-75 ratio, 67% savings. This is from a major semiconductor company running a major EDA workload set from Synopsys. And what you can see is that we dropped the memory in half, in this particular case from 512 to 256 gig, with no impact on performance. Go down to 192, moderate, just slight. And even at a mere 1/4 of the original memory, we're still at 80% of the performance. You could run basically 4 times as many EDA jobs for the same cost. Here, it's looking at Redis, Memcached, and Neo4j. We cut the memory in half in these systems, and you can see negligible performance impact between 94 and 95%, despite cutting the cost of these systems in half. So tough technology. We have made it easy to deploy, easy to use. It can be set up in minutes. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to meeting you face-to-face in the future.